Hello guys, this is part 7 of the Workstation build. In this build we'll be unboxing and installing the SSDs. So the first SSD I went with was the Samsung 970 Pro NVMe drive. This is pretty much the most reliable NVMe drive you can buy. This NVMe drive is the only one that has MLC based NAND flash. Every other NVMe drive is either going to use TLC or QLC. So actually, I believe the 970 Pro was recently discontinued, so you can no longer buy them, which sucks because this right here was the most reliable drive money can buy. So I went with a 1 terabyte. I actually ended up using this as an extra storage scratch disk, but this is a 1 terabyte one. It's I believe it's a PCI Express 3.0. But yeah, it uses MLC base flash. The only way you're going to get that otherwise is with an enterprise drive. So there's the M.2 slot on the motherboard. Most motherboards should have the standoff screw installed on the board. Some might be in the motherboard box, so you want to pay close attention to that. The way these drives go on is you have to put them at a specific angle. You'll see here in a second. They'll go on at an angle, and then they'll act like a diving board. So pay close attention to how I install this. First thing you want to do is you want to remove the screw from the standoff, because otherwise you won't be able to put the thing on. What sucks is sometimes if you unscrew it, it's going to include the entire standoff and not just the top screw. So you actually want to hold on to the standoff, maybe with a pair of needle nose pliers, while you're unscrewing the standoff screw, because it takes off the entire standoff. But do you see the angle that you have to have the SSD, and it slides in to the socket? It only goes one way. It's a certain, it's slotted a certain way, so you can't put it in backwards. But here in a second, I'm gonna realize that I just unscrewed the entire standoff. So I'm gonna have to screw the standoff back in, and then unscrew the actual screw. But yeah, it really sucks that Samsung has discontinued the 970 Pro. And even their new NVMe drives, they all went to TLC, which is an inferior NAND storage. It's not as reliable. It doesn't have the endurance. Of course, everything's going cheap nowadays. Looking back, I wish I would have went with the 4 terabyte one, which is the max you can get for the 970, knowing that you wouldn't be able to buy them anymore. So I re-screwed in the standoff. You could take a Phillips or a flathead driver to secure onto the board there. And I removed the screw off camera from the standoff. Yeah, be very careful when you're unscrewing them. Like I said, it's very easy for the entire standoff to just come right out. So we'll go ahead and reposition the SSD there. See the angle I went with and how it just pops in. And then you'll hold down the SSD, and then you'll screw the screw in. Now these screws are extremely tiny. They're easy to lose. They're easy to fall right off the header there. So you really want to have a magnetized bit, which at the time I did not have. So I was being very, very careful. But when you screw this on, you just want it to be snug. As you can see on the SSD, it's only going to take like half the screw head. So you just want it to be snug just to hold the SSD down. You don't want to crush the SSD or over tighten it. You actually over tighten it, it will make the screw head, it will make the actual screw more slanted, if that makes sense. So as you can see, I'm just screwing it down until it's snug enough like that. And there you go. That's the oh, that's me realigning it. I must have not think it was on there very well to do that. There you go. The NVMe drive, the 970 Pro, has been installed. We're going to move on to the next SSD. So the next SSD I went with for the workstation build is a 1TB Samsung 860 Pro. This right here is the best SATA SSD money can buy. This is the most reliable, and it is the only consumer SATA SSD that uses MLC NAND flash. MLC NAND flash is pretty much one of the most reliable NAND flash types out there. SLC is better, but you're only going to see SLC in a commercial data center. So it's sad because Samsung is starting to move away from offering SSDs with MLC, and they're going to TLC, which is the inferior NAND flash, not as reliable. So this is pretty much the only SSD you can buy that has the maximum reliability. So there's the hard drive caddy it's going to be going into. These just pop right out, and the SSD is just friction fitted into this caddy. But as I was saying, this is the only SATA SSD you can buy that uses MLC-based NAND flash. It's the most reliable. Since this is a workstation, it's a professional machine, a workstation, I want the most reliable. I want this SSD to last 10 to 12 years, if not longer. You buy SSDs now, people are like, oh, if it lasts a couple years, 2 or 3 years, I'm happy. No, that is unacceptable. The SSD must last 10 to 12 years. When I build computers, I want them built right. So as you see, the SSD just slides and pops into this plastic caddy of the 750D. It's pretty self-explanatory. You want to make sure when you install the SSD, it's in the right polarity, the right orientation for the SATA connectors. So as you can see, I was turning the SSD around because I was figuring that out. As I was going, I'm like, what direction do I want these SATA connectors when it gets installed into the case? It helps to actually go over the back of the case, put the caddy on, and see the orientation. So there you go. I think I figured out the polarity that I want it, and it's supposed to be in. Into the caddy, we'll install the caddy into the case. So there's the back of the case, the 750D. You could see the other SSD hard drive caddies. And like I said, the SSD just slides into these caddies. It's just a friction fit, just snaps in. And the hard drive caddy, literally, you just line up the legs, and it just pops in. You have to fiddle with it a little bit, but once you get it aligned, it just snaps right in. Sometimes the plastic can be a little bit finicky. Sometimes you have to actually push in on the clip and then put it in. But as you can see, it just snaps right in. So there is the Samsung 860 Pro 1TB SSD installed. This is actually what I installed the OS on, just because of its reliability, and SATA is plenty enough for the boot drive. So there you go, SSD installed.